The music we have today is like none other, and no, I don't mean that in a good way. Take a look at all our mainstream artists, and tell me you don't see not one flaw. Most of the music we have today is about twerking, killing, hoeing, or devil worshipping, and all of the new artists ain't that different. I believe that every generation of music breeds a new problem, and I know some of y'all like, duh, but I still wanted to talk about it. Hi, welcome to Bond and Break. Over here, we break into different subjects and bond and get along. Nothing more, nothing less. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure we all know that music has an effect on a person's mood. And if it's popular and trending and everybody you know is listening to it and they don't have a problem with it, most likely you're not going to have a problem with it either. And it don't matter what they saying. And I'm not saying that I'm not the same way. I like all music. Good music is good music, but some music is terrible, not gonna lie. But music in general wasn't always like this. There was a lot of things that led to this point. And I'm gonna give y'all a couple of examples of why this happened. But first, let's take a trip to the past, also known as the first generation. Well, the first generation ever recorded. There are 6 generations in total, but we will only be going over 4. Starting with the builders. People born between 1925 and 1945. They were the first of many to create their own sound. This generation also built most of the society we know today, and they value stability and traditional values. They would hear stories about the First World War that took place in 1914 from their grandparents that lived throughout World War II, but today they're known as senior citizens. But they weren't always known as senior citizens. They had a life too. And I don't mean building the suburbs or Jackie Robinson or the Big Bang Theory. And the crazy thing is, throughout all of that negativity, they still make good music. And as you already know, their mainstream was a little bit different from ours. They had artists like Frank Sinatra, Jimmy Dorsey, and the Mills Brothers. Most of their music barely had rhythm. They were just talking most of the time, but their words were meaningful. Let's take Elvis Presley for instance. Most people would describe Elvis as warm, charismatic, and generous. He was always known for being kind and friendly to his fans. He was also known for a sense of humor and his ability to make people at ease. But one fact about Elvis that most people don't know is that he was an introvert. He always demonstrated powerful showmanship on stage, but he was quiet and thoughtful in his daily life. Even in his interviews, you can see that he was always reserved. He took time and answered his questions carefully. But people didn't see him that way. They chose to see him how they wanted to see him, whether that was bold and flashy or a show off and extra. In a way, he set a new standard. He made everyone think that they had to be like him in order to be cool. Like his style, his clothing, his hair. And all of his lady fans pretty much agreed. And we pretty much have the same thing today. We flex money, guns, cars, women, chains, bodies, who the toughest, who got the most ops, and it's all in music. But the urban culture wasn't always like this. It got more ignorant over time. Back then, it was just R&B and blues. Back then, we had singers like Ray Charles, Dinah Washington, Aretha Franklin, and these were all the builders. 1965 through 1979, Generation X. The label X came from Douglas Copeland. This generation mainly benefited from economic prosperity. Well, that was of the time at least. The people of this generation did well throughout this era. They established themselves well economically, and their net worth, well, let's just say it accelerated. And of course, their music taste did too. And this was when alternative rock, hip-hop, and heavy metal developed. Artists like Kiss, Journey, Deep Purple, The Rolling Stones, Elton John, Black Sabbath, Marvin Gaye, they all generated from the 40s. And if you think about it, these genres of music just get passed down and changed. And it could make or break the genre. It's always up to the next generation. I believe one of the most influential people from this timeline that had the Elvis effect was James Brown. And to be honest, he had a major influence on most popular music styles, including R&B, soul, disco, rock and roll, and of course rap. And I believe he influenced the era of soul music, just like Curtis Mayfield, Lynn Collins, and the Bee Gees. And a quick fact, James Brown was said to be the most sampled musician in history. He even used his music to break down the boundaries of racial segregation back in the 1950s. Both the blacks and the whites were obsessed with his music. They thought he was a musical phenomenon, but in his personal life, he was known as a kind and generous man. He also used to reach out to the needy. He sponsored a turkey giveaway and a book giveaway every year. And if you think he was putting on the front, once he was hospitalized with pneumonia. This was the day before Christmas. He got out of his warm hospital bed and went out in the cold just to give out gifts to the children. And sadly, he died the next day. I believe his kind-hearted ways and soulful music turned hundreds of millions of people into who they are today. Soon after, there was Michael Jackson, the king of pop music. He was the first to win 8 Grammys in one night, including the Album of the Year back in 1984, with songs like Rock With You, Dirty Diana, Will You Be There, and Beat It. The popularity of these videos helped bring TV channels like MTV to fame. He was more than an artist, he was an icon. He always had a way of connecting with his fans. And I'm not just talking about no normal basic fans. He had herds of fans. And to help some of y'all understand the amount of clout he had, bro, just imagine the Cassinet little incident in New York, but like 2 times bigger. Pretty much anywhere he visited, he had that same effect. And that's not all, he also proved that it doesn't matter what color you are. Talent and artistry doesn't know any color, or race for that fact. He also is a part of Black History Month, the first black global icon who will forever be known as the King of Pop. Michael is an American icon that pushed the envelope for the black community worldwide. I like to believe that he was also a kind-hearted man that wanted to see us all get along. Gen Y, 1980 through 1994, basically just the 90s. The 90s is often remembered as a decade of peace and prosperity. The Soviet Union fell, ending the decades of a long Cold War, and the rise of the internet ushered in a racial new era of communication. The 90s was a decade that left a mark on popular culture, from the rise of grunge music and the explosion of hip-hop, iconic TV shows and blockbuster movies. The 90s was a time of creativity, innovation, and cultural shifts. Google and Amazon fueled the growing popularity of the internet and forever changed everyday life. Most of the songs that come from the 90s are still getting played today, well by people that got taste. Tupac Amaru Shakur, also known as Tupac. He was known as one of the most influential and successful rappers of all time. He sold more than 75 million records worldwide. He used his music to spread the message of thug life and the need for social change. His music was for the young people that were fighting for oppression and inequality, but others would use his music in another way. Pretty much the same thing with Elvis. They just built their own image of him in their head and tried to mimic it. A similar person to Tupac is X. Now hear me out, just hear me out. They both were really bold, and it was more to them than just the surface. They were some thugs in their own way though. You would always catch them saying something knowledgeable or like something down to earth. It would be something from the heart that made you see them differently. And then they would show their ignorant side. They also had a bad side. Like when they got mad, Like it was a little overboard. And if it was about beef, they would find a way to make it 10 times worse. But really, it's just the way you seen them. Because a lot of people didn't even pay attention to the ignorant side, or a lot of people just like pretty much ignored it. And some other people ignored the down-to-earth knowledgeable side. All they wanted to see is their bad side because they thought it was cool. And then there was Gen Z. And we kind of going through it. Most of our artists ain't even making it past 21. And then they get like really famous after they're dead. And it's not as natural, it's mostly calculated. Everything is for plays, it's not as genuine no more. When something is made, it's made specifically for plays and streams. And mostly it's more about how much clout the artist has and not about how much talent they bring as an artist. And the ones that really do have the most talent are the ones that die the fastest. It's kind of crazy. Most people back then just made music that they personally liked, and they caught on in the city and they kept going. It wasn't for clout or anything like that. Let's take Chief Keef for example. He started out making music at just 5 years old, using his mother's karaoke machine and tapes with songs like I Don't Like, Love Sosa, and Hate Being Sober. His album hit 29 on the Billboard 200. And he was just a kid making music that he enjoyed himself with his I don't give a fuck energy, and it worked. Not because of a beat, not because of a crazy amount of followers. Nothing was forced at all, it was all natural. He wasn't trying to satisfy a certain sound, he was just doing shit. That's not a thing today. We go into music wanting something, whether it's money, women, or even attention. And that's why most artists don't last. It's not genuine. Most people just copy everything they see working. And since we got the internet, we can put it wherever we want. And that's why we got random ass goofy music. 2017 is the year that the rap genre got the crown for the most popular genre of music in America. This was when the mainstream artists that we have now were just appearing. We had just discovered Playboi Carti, Magnolia, Look At Me by X, Gucci Gang, Bad and Bougie with Migos and Uzi, The Shape of You by Ed Sheeran, Future and Mask Off. This is another time or era that we will never get again. And this is also a standard. There were so many big names back to back, week after week, and dropping the best songs of our generation. They proved that they were here to stay. But 2016 was also good too. We can't forget about that freshman cypher with Lil Bo, 21 Savage, and Uzi. Life was simple back then, just good music, good vibes, no complaints. But we were mostly influenced by what we heard. Whatever was trending on YouTube, TikTok, or Vine, musically, we took it like a drug and it changed us. Our behavior, our mindset, and most definitely our interests. A lot of us knew what was normal, then we moved on to this. Gen Alpha, I believe. That's all they're gonna know. Their Michael Jackson is gonna be Playboi Carti. Their Beyonce gonna be Sexy Red. And I'm pretty sure y'all can already see it. They already think all of this stuff that's not normal is normal, and they're really not normal at all. But anyways, it's not too much I can say about that. It's really just parenting for real. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, subscribe, like the video, and stay tuned for more, because I will be more consistent, hopefully. Don't hold me if I'm not. Don't even do that. And if you're wondering why my voice was like different throughout the video, I was recording this throughout different days. This wasn't all recorded in one day. It's been all over the place, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But anyways, that's the end of the video. Let me know if y'all liked it or not, and feel free to comment. Thank you for watching. Bye.